Chapter 3 Basho. The three samurai turned to the man with the walking stick. "You know them, master?" one asked. "Yes, of course," the man said. "This boy and girl are Baku and Kodo, my best students." "Hi, master," said Annie, pretending she knew who the man was. "We couldn't find the bridge, so we came here to look for you," said Jack. "And now you have found me," said the man. "I am sorry you were frightened by my friends." The samurai put away his sword. "Forgive me," he said, bowing before Jack and Annie. "Sure, no problem." The samurai turned to the small man. "We will leave you with your students now," he said. "Thank you, most honored master, for your visit with us today." All three warriors bowed deeply before the man. Then they walked away. Why did the samurai call the man most honored master? Jack wondered. When the samurai were gone, the man turned to Jack and Annie. His eyes twinkled. "I believe you are safe now," he said. "Thanks," said Annie, "but I'm afraid we're not Baku and Kodo." "No, you are not," said the man. "But you are not spies either, are you?" "No," said Jack. "I did not think so," said the man. "That is why I thought you needed my help." "Thank you," said Jack. "You are most welcome," said the man. "Now, perhaps you will tell me who you really are, and how you came to be here in the Imperial Garden." "Our names are Jack and Annie," said Jack. "And he paused. It seemed impossible to explain. Teddy and Kathleen's visit, Merlin's sorrow, Morgan's research book. "We came here to search for a secret of happiness," said Annie. The man smiled. "I believe that is something we all seek," he said. "But you must be very careful, Jack and Annie. The shogun does not allow foreigners into our country. If you do not have passports, you could be caught and punished." "We know," said Annie. "What should we do?" "Perhaps you should travel with me today," said the man. "You can continue to be my students, Baku and Kodo." "Good plan," said Jack. "You must remember, seek harmony with your surroundings," said the man. "Observe the people of Edo, and do as they do. If you do not stand out, you will not be noticed by the samurai." "Got it," said Annie. "Seek harmony with your surroundings, observe the people of Edo, and do as they do," Jack repeated to himself. "Come," said the man. He started walking briskly through the garden. Jack and Annie hurried after him. "Excuse me, but what's your name?" Annie said. "My friends call me Basho," the man answered. "Basho? That's a cute name," said Annie. "And why did the samurai call you most honored master?" Jack asked. "Because I am their teacher," said Basho. "What do you teach them?" asked Jack. Basho smiled. "Today they learned how to listen to a cricket in a woodpile," he said, "and how to think like a frog." "Cool," said Jack. "Those must be warrior skills," he thought. "Special ways to listen for an enemy or jump around with a sword." He remembered how ninjas use secrets of nature to fight their enemies. Basho led Jack and Annie through a wooden gate and a high wall. They walked over a wide stone bridge that crossed a moat. When they came to the other side of the bridge, they followed a path that led to a small boat dock on a river. Three fishermen were loading wicker baskets into a long, flat-bottomed boat. Hundreds of shiny little fish were inside each basket. Basho walked over to the fishermen. "Good morning," he said. "Good morning, Master Basho," the fisherman said. All of them bowed. Everyone seems to know Basho, Jack thought. "May my students and I ride with you down the river?" asked Basho. "Oh, yes, of course, Master Basho," one of the men said. "We would be most honored to carry you in our humble boat." "Thank you," said Basho. Jack and Annie followed Basho onto the deck of the boat and sat next to the wicker baskets. One of the fishermen untied the boat, and the others used long poles to push it away from the dock. The men began pulling down the river. The fishing boat floated under a series of bridges, moving in and out of shadows and glittering light. As it passed under one of the bridges, it scraped the bottom of the river. Basho, Jack, and Annie were thrown forward. "Forgive us, master," one of the fishermen called to Basho. "The river is very shallow." "There has been no rain for a long time," said another fisherman. "It is very worrisome to us." "Yes, it worries me too," said Basho. "What's everyone so worried about?" Annie asked Basho. "When the weather is very dry, the people of Edo worry about fire," said Basho. 25 years ago, during a dry spell, half of our city was destroyed by a terrible fire. Thousands died. Oh, that's awful, said Annie. Yes, since then everyone has worked hard to rebuild the castle and the capital, said Basho. Ito is now even more beautiful than before. In fact, along this riverbank are many new castles of the samurai. See? There one hides now. Basho pointed at a steep rocky cliff above the riverbank. Jack shaded his eyes as he looked at the curved roof and high stone walls of a samurai castle. Its largest room is called the 1,000-mat hall, said Basho. What does that mean? Asked Jack. It means the room can hold 1,000 floor mats, said Basho. Cool, said Annie. Basho, where do you live? Basho smiled. My castle is on the other side of the Great Bridge, he said. Jack wondered how many mats Basho's castle could hold. Beyond the steep cliffs, the boat traffic grew heavier. Now there were many boats floating on the wide river. Big sailboats, barges loaded with lumber, and ferries filled with passengers holding parasols. The fishing boat glided toward a crowded dock next to a market. In the market, thousands of gleaming fish were laid out on tables. Men and women also sold fish and other sea creatures from baskets that hung from poles across their shoulders. Shrimp, tuna, octopus, eel, they shouted. Wait for us while we deliver the fish, Basho said to Jack and Annie. Then we will travel further on the river. The fishermen tied up the boat. Jack and Annie waited on the landing as Basho helped the crew unload the wicker baskets. Then each man put a basket on his head and started up the stone steps that led to the fish market. Oh no, said Annie. Look! She pointed toward the other end of the dock. Jack looked. He saw several samurai getting off a boat. Quick, grab a basket, he said. Jack and Annie each picked up a basket of fish. As Jack tried to lift the basket to his head, he tilted it. A couple of fish hit him on the nose as they fell to the dock. Leave them, come on, whispered Annie. Carrying the baskets on their heads, Jack and Annie followed Basho and the fishermen up the steps and delivered their fish to a young woman at one of their tables. Jack glanced back at the river. The samurai were standing on the landing, checking someone's passport. Jack looked at Basho. Basho was watching the samurai too. He turned to the fishermen. Thank you for the ride, he said calmly, bowing to the men. We will walk from here. The fisherman nodded and smiled. Good plan, thought Jack, relieved. Come, said Basho. He led Jack and Annie away from the market. Soon they came to a busy road crowded with pedestrians and travelers on horseback. As they walked along with the crowd, Jack remembered Basho's words. Seek harmony with your surroundings. He tried to blend in by walking at a steady pace. Keeping his eyes down, he worried about their mission. How will we ever find the secret of happiness, he wondered, if we have to keep dodging the samurai? Look at that bridge, said Annie. Jack glanced up. A high arched bridge spanned the river. Hundreds of people were walking across it. That is the Great Bridge, said Basho. It will lead us away from the heart of Ito to the bank of the Sumida River, where I live. Great, said Jack. He hoped they would be safer away from the heart of Ito. Then maybe they could focus on their search for the secret. Jack, Annie, and Basho joined the crowd crossing the bridge. They walked single file, close to the wooden railing. Jack stared straight ahead, careful not to look anyone in the eye. He saw people having picnics on the other side of the bridge. Kids were flying red kites. What's that mountain? Said Annie. She pointed to a snow-capped mountain looming in the distance. The white cone of the gray mountain rose above fleecy, rose-tinted clouds. That is a volcanic mountain called Mount Fuji, said Basho. Oh, I've heard of Mount Fuji, said Jack. That's the highest mountain in Japan, right? Yes, and the most beautiful, said Basho. It is beautiful, said Annie. Jack looked around. Actually, he thought everything seemed beautiful at that moment. The green and yellow parasols of the ferry boat passengers below, the pink cherry trees shimmering at the river's edge, the red kites and white seagulls gliding through the sky. I love Japan, Jack said softly. I do too, said Basho. We call our world the floating world, for it seems to float on beauty. It really does, murmured Jack. Walking across the great bridge, he felt as if he himself were floating through the floating world.